What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of the BrandonJaneauShow. As you already know, I am Brandon Janeau, and to everybody that has been listening, watching, uh, thank you. I appreciate this very, very much. And if it wasn't for you guys that's been listening, watching, subscribing, whatever you guys have been doing for my podcast, man, um, sharing, supporting pretty much, this episode probably wouldn't be happening. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode. So this episode is very important because it is uh, my 3 year anniversary of the Brandon Janeau Show Monday. September 19th, 2019, I started this podcast. You don't even. Let me take you into this. I said this a bunch of times when a milestone comes up, and I think a lot of people, and I think a lot of podcasters, I think a lot of people, and I'm gonna do that probably today too. But you in 3 years though, this is crazy, right? I've been racking my brain around it, right? Like I've been trying to come up with the proper way of doing this podcast, and talk about it for a good bit, talk about what I wanted to say, and how I wanted to say it. I wanted to be politically correct when I did this, but I think that's why people don't they do listen and watch this. I think it's because I'm not politically correct. I am just a young man trying to figure out what the fuck life is. Like everybody is. Nobody knows if you're 62, 72, 22, 12, 32. It doesn't matter how old you are. We're all still trying to figure out this thing called life. And some of us might have a better grasp of what it is, but not particularly what it's always trying to show us and teach us. And when it comes to me, man, I've seen, I feel like 3 years of this podcast, I've seen progression in myself. I've seen growth in myself. I've seen myself become better when it comes to the work of not just a podcast, but as a person. And I said this to my brother, um, Frankly Francisco, podcast. Francisco, go watch our interview that's out right now on my YouTube channel. Go listen to it on YouTube on podcast platforms, and go listen to him. Go watch his YouTube channel, Frankly Francisco. Frankly Francisco podcast on all podcast platforms. Incredible content. Um, but we were talking, and I said, this podcast is a diary to me. Because it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think some people have diaries where they write shit down in, and then I have this diary where I can't write shit down because sometimes it's too jumbled up in my mind, and sometimes I struggle with trying to write shit down. I'm not great at the writing shit. I'm good at the just saying what I feel shit. Most of us are like that. We're not good at the writing shit. But we can tell you how we feel out the gate. Like nigga, fuck you. I ain't got time for this shit today. Nigga, fuck you. I don't feel like dealing with you today. Fuck you. And this is very simple. Is it right to the point? Bow. But yeah, in in 3 years, what have I learned in this podcast situation? And what have I learned in myself? And I feel like what I've learned is I'm stronger than I put off. I'm stronger than what I say sometimes. To deal with shit that I deal with in my life. Um, it'd be personal or this podcast world or depression. Feeling like I'm not enough or feeling anxiety that as much as I would love to be more sociable, I'm very anti-sociable. So I can't. I'm very anti of it. I can't. I can't be that guy. I would love to, but I can't. Um, and to be honest, if like me and my family was to Like I do podcasts with my family in this podcast world. If we were to actually physically meet up, I probably would be like the most standoffish person doing it because that's just who I am. So thank God for Zoom. Uh, um, but yeah, we all man. This in 3 years, I've learned I'm stronger than I put off. I show the people. Um, I can talk. You know, I can talk. I can actually talk. I'm not. I don't have to hold my thoughts in and walk around with them all day. I can say what I feel. And hey, some people gonna love it. Some people gonna hate it. Some people gonna fuck with it. Some people gonna think I'm just a sick human being that don't know nothing and is mentally ill. But I could talk. I could talk about whatever bothers me, what cheers me up, or tears me down in life. But I could talk. I learned that in 3 years. I learned in 3 years of doing this is that my name means something. You see it in the logo clearly, but that name means something. I learned that my name actually means something, and it's an incredible feeling to see your name on podcast platforms. It's a beautiful feeling to see people subscribe to the Brandon Janeau Show on YouTube or follow you on social media just because you got something and they're just trying to figure out why the fuck people listening to you, following you. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? It's a moment. That name means something. Just like everybody's name means something. Now I'm not sitting here and saying my name is like in flashy fucking lights. Oh fuck no. But I believe that one day I it could happen. I'm not gonna say that like it can't happen. Just like every single person that's gonna be listening to this and watching this, your name is just as important. It's important. You just have to find your platform to get it out there. That's all. That's another thing. I figured out how much I do believe in myself. I had to figure that out. A big ass Whataburger cup. I had, to, I had to figure that out. If you live in Texas, you live anywhere where they got a Whataburger, you know what I mean. But yeah. But I realized I believe in myself way more than I thought. Um, Clearly, I always said, you know, 3 years ago, I was depressed. I was anxiety filled. I had suicidal thoughts for most of the time that I was just here every day. I wanted to, you know, pretty much harm myself. Um, and it was just time to do something about it. You know, more so because I don't know how much longer I have on this planet. So let me go ahead and do it. But I realized as you know, I would start and stop, then start and stop, then start and stop the podcast. And somewhere in season one, it clicked. It finally clicked. And mainly because of my guy, um, Pat from Podcastagram. Like I said, I will eventually get to people that help me, really, really help me. And my guy Pat helped me. He heard a couple podcast episodes. I hit him up on social media. He heard a couple podcast episodes from me. Thought I had a voice that was unique, and was like, "Hey man, I gotta interview you." This is a guy that lives in a way different country than I do, and he was like, "Yo, I gotta interview you." Like what? Okay, that's cool. And that was the first person that even showed interest in me and put me on Instagram Live. And I wish my interview with him would have been better, but I think I got the gist of it, and to see the people that was in there that still to this day we follow each other and we still show love to each other. Shout out to Good Times Bad Movies. And shout out to Flow Life Podcast, my sister Ashley. Um, Shout out to my other mentor, Jeremy, Life Unplugged. And it's crazy to see that, man. It's but I realized I believed in this. I did. I did believe in it. I believed in what I was doing. I believed in my messaging, even though sometimes it could go all over the fucking place and it can go off the rails. And I'm sorry about that. If you have listened to every episode I've done, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully you got the same, you know, message out of it at the end of the day. Is I'm a fucked up individual. I'm still trying to figure life out. Like we all are. Don't judge me, goddamn it. But I believed in this. I believed in what I was doing. I believed in myself. I believed in that I was creating something. And then season two comes. I go into my second year, and that's when it just all hit fast, and it just boom, it all came. And I've done so many seasons. I'm in season 6 of this podcast. It's crazy to even think that I've mastered a way to get to a season 6. I didn't even see myself getting past 20 episodes, let alone 200. I'm closing in on close to probably like 300 episodes. I'll be probably in 300 episodes by next year or so. Like, it's crazy to think this. Like, there's no way in hell that's possible. No way in hell. That is no way in hell this is possible. Without people listening and people sharing it and people supporting it. So again, thanks to the people that are watching this and is subscribing and is listening and is doing it. Even if it's for a short, if it's a little quick minute, you are helping me. So appreciate that, because I know how fucking crazy life can be, to the point where you sat down for like literally like a couple of freaking seconds and was like, let me see what this fucking boy talking about. Let me see what he talking about. And you checked it and you clicked it and you was like, can't fuck with that. That takes that. Like, it just takes that. And same thing with a podcast. If you just click it and like, all right, let's see what this boy talking about. And you listen and you're like, can't fuck with that. Thank you. Because I appreciate that shit. But believing in myself was hard. It was very hard. I'm not that type of person. Let's just put it like that. I'm not the type of person. Um, but life happens. This podcast has got me to believe in myself. Just like it got me to talk about anything I feel like talking about. You know what I'm saying? It showed me my name matters. Just beyond me. This is what this is, man. But with all the pros of that, does come some cons in that. That's life. Obviously, not everything's going to be 100% positive in life. And with cons, that come the cons. There come the cons with pros. What I've learned is I really love being by myself when it comes to this podcast world. What I mean by that is I posted something yesterday on social media, and I said most people would love to take over the table that they got the opportunity to sit at. I would love to get the opportunity to sit at the table, learn all I could learn from that table, and then build my own table. I don't believe in competition in this podcast world. I don't believe in competition. But I do believe in moving your shit, your podcast, your creation, whatever you want to deem it. I do believe in moving it how you see fit to your objective in your life. I don't believe in competition, but I do believe in not right now. I can't do shit with you right now. I believe in it. Sometimes it's hard to blur those lines sometimes, because there is people that helped you. there's a lot of people that help me, but we probably won't get back to that time frame in life where we could all work together again because that's just not it's not logical. It's not logical. Like it would take some time. And there's no bad blood. There's no bad blood. I would hope not. There's no bad blood over here. But I don't see the point of doing it. I've always said that. I just don't see the point of doing it. It's not because that we can't do it. It's just my growth and my progress towards this is different now. When I first started this, I thought it would be that way. I thought I would be by myself. I thought nobody would listen. Uh, I had way more people I was following than people was following me. This shit has completely flip flopped. Let me tell you. But I was following like family and celebrities. I was like, okay, I gotta get rid of something. And I stopped that and I turned my Instagram page into my podcast. It's literally my podcast. Anything that I feel I think is deemed that helped me get to the place where I could do a podcast, that's what I'm doing it for. So when you go to Instagram, you see BrandonJaneauShow on Instagram. You might see some videos that's just very funny, but I need to laugh because in a lot of times in life we don't laugh a lot. We laugh to keep from crying, and I'm trying to not cry as much anymore. Um, but in the cons, you find out that being a lone wolf isn't as bad as it seems. But in this podcast world, it can be very daunting. It can be a very bad situation for you because you want to move on your own accord. You don't want to do a lot of shit that you used to do. And I say this all the time. I've met the people that I'm very genuinely connected with because we don't go in with judgment. We don't go in with trying to be flashy lights and big cameras. We're trying to just do our shit, have fun, enjoy it, and then dip and have a good time. And that's what I want. Anytime I create something like a panel or a top 10 list or just a Saturday jam session where we're not even recording shit, we're just on a damn Zoom playing music, just having fun, playing music, man. And it's a different type of energy, man. And that's the fun part of everything that we do. And I got very lucky, man, in the first couple of years of my podcast that people did take to me and they did like me and they did respect what I was doing. But again, you are doing things and you are with that mindset of eventually I'm going to have to revert back to doing this by myself. That's where the lines get drawn. Which brings me to another, con of mine is this isn't a group project. This is not a group project. This is not. I would, like I said, I would hope that there's no enemies of mine, but we all move differently. Now, when we do stuff with like the top 10 list and all that, that's a joint effort. But we all got different minds. We do when we get in there and we're debating, you can feel the energy being like, I don't like that fucking artist. I don't like that album. I don't like that actor. I don't like the actress. You brought that person up. That person sucks. Like, yeah, but you can feel it. But that's the thing because we're all different podcasters. We all think differently. We all move differently. We have different things that made us into who we are. That's a joint effort. It's a beautiful joint effort. I love it. And if we all were to probably do podcasts together, we probably would kill each other. I'm gonna be honest with you. We probably yeah, I love them so much, but we probably would all probably kill each other because it'd be just too much of the back and forth. We kind of get to we get to a happy medium eventually, but before we get to the happy medium, there's gonna be a lot of shit, and then the top 10 list and shit is gone. Like we can't do that now because we did that, but not for them. Outside of them, the rest of them podcasters, I just can't because I've seen what that looks like. And that's what I mean. It's not a group effort. It's not a group, you know, situation. This is not a group situation because with my family in the podcast world, we know each other. We know what we're going to do. We know how we move. We know that already. For certain motherfuckers, you don't know that. You bring them into the circle and shit go left real fast. And that's the thing. I learned in this 3 years that being a lone wolf and knowing that this ain't always a group effort is a very important thing moving forward because eventually you can't do shit with everybody. You can't. You would love to, but you can't. And that's a very important thing. Another con that has happened in this podcast world that I've learned, well, not just in the podcast world, but in life, because a lot of this reverts back to my real life. So when I say this isn't a group effort and it's okay to move as a lone wolf, even if you don't want to, because that's also personal to me. I don't always tell my family everything that I go through because there's just no time for that shit. I went to therapy yesterday. I talked to my therapist. It was just like I don't tell my mom anymore about my therapist situation because it's just like it just doesn't make any sense to. I think differently now when it comes to life, and that's in the podcast world. That's in real life. I can't tell everybody everything, so I have to move quietly. I have to move like a lone wolf. My thoughts have to be kind of to myself because I do move in a world of podcasters that maybe bite your shit. No diss. It's just people bite your shit, and it's like, okay, that's weird. Why would you try to like do what I was doing? But okay, do you, I guess. Um, and that's the thing. Another con is again to everything. It's just another con of mine is that as much as I've learned that I can believe in myself, as much as I've learned that I'm stronger than I put off, as long as I can talk and all that, it still hasn't reverberated into me as a person. As much as I love to speak my mind now and enjoy it, it still has not trickled down to my real life. I don't talk still. I don't say what certain times I do feel because I know the consequences of that. I can talk shit on the podcast. I can talk some shit, but there's certain things in life there's certain problems in life that there's no talking about when it comes to me. You know, because I've either blocked it out, or I've either just straight up not cared anymore, or I just straight up just was like, we, do you have a time machine? Can we go back in time? If not, shut the fuck up. I don't care anymore. It's like, and that's the thing. And I feel like being that I'm such a good listener, I have to come with a proper response, politically correct. I have to come with a proper response. And sometimes that shit drags you the fuck out because you really want to tell them, like, yeah, you're wasting your fucking time. I have no idea why you continue to think that shit's a good idea, but do you? And that's real life too. Like that's really more real life than it is podcast life because you can't always be there for everybody. It sucks. It fucking does. Especially when you love that person, you care about that person, you're trying to do that shit, and then you talk to them so much that you just get to the point where it's like, you know what? You'll figure it out. And deuces. And you leave. And it fucks with you. I had to learn that. I have to learn that. I still haven't gotten to that point in my life. As much as this podcast has helped me with a lot of things, that's the one thing in my life I do not have the boundary on. I do not have the gauge of how far I could really pull it. And and that is the thing, man. It sucks that this still hasn't really came into my life as much as I would love it to be. Because I can't have honest conversations with my family sometimes about life, about how I feel. but it's turned into some other shit. Being the youngest, you learn that there's moments where you speak about how you feel, and at certain times where you just let it ride. You ain't got shit to say because you know nobody listens to you. That's another thing about being a podcaster. That's a pro and a con. Is that you find your voice, but you're so afraid that nobody's gonna listen to you. You can say a bunch of fucking things, but you're the youngest, and that's the same thing in this podcast world. I'm one of the youngest, like one of the youngest to do this shit, and you don't even realize that people are listening. You don't know people tuning in. You don't know people watching. I mean, you can see it on YouTube with the viewership, but podcasts, like when they go on podcast platforms and shit, like you can see, but it's like I don't know how much of that really is people listening, or they just clicking it for a second and then like, all right, whatever. So you don't know, and that's the thing, man. So when you find your voice, it's still a problem because you still question, you still doubt yourself, which is another problem I got. Where is like, do I doubt myself? Like I doubt myself too much, even when I do shit, and I know it probably is good, but I'm like, this might be too good, and people might not really understand what I'm trying to say because it's not as sugar coated as it should be, or it's not as black and fucking white as it should be. Certain people might just take it as, "Oh, you just talking shit. Are you dissing me? You acting like I'm stupid." Hey, it's like what? No, but I get why you will feel it, like feel that way. And even when I think I'm speaking total fucking English, I sound like Charlie Brown teaches some motherfuckers like wah 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 wah, like wah 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 wah. It's like god damn. But that's the thing, man. Even in this podcast world, or even in real life, 3 years is a long fucking time to be doing something. And I'm turning 29 in January. I started this when I was 25, and I think I even said on my 26th, before my 26th birthday. I think I even said, um, I wish I'm still doing this by next year. like every year, and this is another thing about this podcast world that I'm learning. Every year, it gets to like late October, early November. That's when I have my depression uh season. I get really depressed. Um, Last year, was the first time in a long time that I was depressed, but I didn't want to harm myself. Um, Mainly because I had a lot of shit going on. I was doing I had just started Jack's Wild, with my brother Juan, which tonight will be on YouTube. Jack's Wild Sports show is the YouTube channel, so check in on that. But you guys are not gonna see this until maybe Sunday. So next week we'll be on YouTube. Next Wednesday doing NFL pick'ems. So if you like NFL, you like sports, come through and watch that with us, and go follow him on Instagram, All Sports Talk podcast. Uh, and then I had and then I and then in December of that year of last year, that's when me and my brother RC started Dark Therapy Session. Go follow him. RSA. Go follow Dark Dad Session on Instagram too. I don't always say that. Go follow us on Instagram. Dark Dad Session and YouTube channel. Dark Dad Session. Um, but last year was the first time I was depressed, but I didn't want to harm myself. I didn't want to hurt myself, and mainly is because I knew I had a better 2022 coming. It's crazy to think that, right? Like it's been a minute since I felt that way. That I had a better year coming. And 2021 was great. It was a great year. I started my top 10 list. I started doing a lot of interviews with a lot of amazing artists, and you know, people sending me people, and it's a crazy feeling. But we're getting closer to October, And I know I get those depressions by like a week before Halloween, and then Halloween week it really starts to kick in, and then by no Thanksgiving it's there. It's depression, and then by Christmas it's like, oh my God. You have one day where you're like, okay, I can play this role for a second, and then you go back into the depression like right after, and then you go into and then my birthday is in January, and then I start thinking about I'm getting older. I'm not doing shit. I'm still stuck. And my when I started this 3 years ago, that was the concern. Will it actually get me out of that? And my first year, no, it didn't. It made it worse. Actually, it made it worse because I felt like I wasn't doing this enough, and I wasn't pushing myself. There's way more I could say. There's way more I could do. I should be reaching people. I should be hitting people up. I should be getting things popping. I should be, what you learn in anything you love is that when it's slow and it's coming, like when it's slow and it's coming and you have to put the work in, that's when you know you love something. Because this is a grind. This isn't some shit you just get on social media and just, hey, I got a podcast out now, so go listen. No, that shit does not work. You got to fucking work. You got to do this shit every fucking day. It's day in, day fucking out. And certain people can listen. If you got a job, I will understand fully, but I don't. So I'm thinking every day of content. I'm watching YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, on the internet, everything. I'm looking at everything. The reason why is because it's not to fuel what this is. It's more so, okay, just in case my topic that I actually want to talk about kind of comes off as stagnant or a little bullshitty. Okay, let me just do this. Because I know people will understand that right away. Everybody will understand a tweet that came out just a moment ago from like Kanye or some shit. They can easily understand that. But that's just to make sure. I do prep before I even do shit. I'm doing prep 2 weeks from now on episodes for later in the season. It ain't even here yet. But I'm doing shit that I might not do that episode until December. I might not physically record this shit until December. But I'm doing prep for it right now in September. It's constant. But when you love something and you know it's coming, you have to grind every fucking day. Because it's not some shit you wake up and you just do. And that's what I've learned is that I love this. I fucking love this. I love what I do. I love the fact that I get a chance to work with people. I love the fact that I get a chance to do shit. If you listen or you don't, if you like or you don't, you dislike it on social media or Instagram, whatever. You follow me, you don't. I love this. I love what I do. This is not some shit that just fly by. But this is a fucking grind. 3 years. I gotta love this shit. I gotta fucking love this. There's no other option for me. And that's the difference. It's like in 3 years, something that I did because I would love to do it and I wanted to do a podcast and I kept Googling how do you do a podcast? What's the best sites? Where you go? And I did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I finally one day just did it. I was like, you know what? I'm in my bed. Let's just see. And I recorded my first episode. Thought the shit was trash. Then I recorded another episode like a couple days later. And then it was like a month gap between the first two episodes and like the next couple episodes. But I started to love, I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying this. The podcast was supposed to hide how I felt inside at that time in my life. I was depressed as fuck. I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to not be here. So I was like, I'm gonna talk about music. I'm gonna talk about sports. I would just talk about shit that I knew I could randomly talk about without inadvertently talking about how I was feeling. In one episode, I just was like, you know what, man, I don't even know I'm gonna be here. I'm so tired of living. I'm so tired of not thinking what's coming. I'm so tired of trying to fight this uphill battle that I know is kicking my ass and I can't get out of it. That was the episode I think my guy Pat loved the most. Cause he was like, yo, you talk about mental health. That's awesome. I need to talk to you about this. I'm like, I got all these other episodes. This is what you want to talk about. It worked. It worked. I'm not an expert on mental health, by the way. No shape, no form. But I know depression. I know bipolar. I have it. I have bipolar depression. I know anxiety. And I know when you feel like nobody understands you and the world's against you, your back's against the wall, all these fucking metaphors for just saying, hey, bro, I'm fucking tired of this. Shut the fuck up. I don't feel like dealing with this shit. I know all those metaphors. I feel them every day. Every fucking day. Bro, I have a time in my day to day life where if I've been up too long, I have to literally lay down to recharge my body because my body is starting to physically kind of shut down on me. If I don't lay down, then I will literally get tired, like physically tired, and just be like, you know what? I don't know if I'm getting up. You know what's crazy? In 20, 30, 45 hour later, hour 30 later, guess what? I'm up like nothing happened. And crazy shit is, in 3 more hours, I'll be back in the bed trying to recharge my body. Now I don't know if my body's breaking down on me or I'm just getting old. Either way it goes, I don't like this shit. This is what I love. I love it. I enjoy that one day somebody's gonna listen to this and connect with it. I love the fact that one day somebody is gonna hit me up and say, "Hey, I'm just listening to your podcast. It took me, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, but I appreciate you because what you said is fucking outstanding and it's impressive." And I'm gonna hit them back and say, "I appreciate that." This is what this is, man. In 3 years, from 2019 to 2022, what have I fucking learned about me as a person? All in that, all in all, is that I got a lot of shit that's good that came out of this podcast about myself. Fuck just the podcast. About myself. About myself, I found out a lot of shit. Some of the shit I was always playing off and trying to act like, that shit just doesn't matter. And a lot of that shit is that it fucking was there all along and I just could never turn it on. I could never get it to the point where I truly believed in it. What I've also learned is that I have a reason to be cautious about a lot of shit in life. I also learned that you can't trust everybody. You can't fuck with everybody. You can't tell everybody your plans. Because sometimes people take your shit and run with it. When I started this podcast, man, 2019, it was to silence my voices in my head. It was to finally give myself a chance to explain who I was. So if something was to happen, you would know. Something has happened, and you know. The difference is I'm here to tell it, and not just a voice that haunts. You see me. What's gonna happen in a year from now? Who the fuck knows? I might be doing this. I might not. Who the fuck knows? But I do know one thing. If you listen, if you follow, you share, you support, subscribe, or you just come on here and fuck with me. And that's for my family in the podcast where RSA, DC with the shit, Chris, Bird's Eye View, my TDs, Miss Queen, Pillow Talk the T, I see Sharice, Grown Ass Folk, my family, the Tyler, Meet the Tyler's podcast, Kim and Nelson. Or if you just, we got a relationship, but we don't always connect always and do shit, but it's love. It's always love. That's J Squad podcast. That's, oh yeah, shout out to my brother Juan, because he's in that group of family. My brother Juan, All Sports Talk podcast. But if, like I said, J Squad podcast, um, What Your Gang podcast. Shout out to those young boys. They killing shit. Fuck with them niggas. They are incredible, incredible, incredible. Go listen to their podcast. Go follow them on YouTube too. What up, gang? What Up, gang? Podcast, man. Incredible guys. Uncle P. Like I said, my brother Francisco, Franklin Francisco. Um, my mentors that have been in the game for a minute. Like I said, Pat, Podcastagram, Jeremy, Life Unplugged, uh, JR, WVN Commonplace. It's all the people that I wish I could support more or show more love to you. Um, you know, and I feel like I'm kind of slacking on that. And that's Nick and Noah, Pick Six, Nick and Noah. So problematic. Um, who else? Last talk show. That dude's crazy. With his content, man. Um, who else? So many more people, man. I'm missing so fucking many people. Oh shit, I'm missing so many people. Oh, my sister Ashley, Flow Life podcast. Um, yeah, so many people. Good Times, Bad Movies podcast. So many people, man, that I've been fortunate enough to work with, and even the people, you know, that I got to hit back up a couple times because I got to hit them up. But they mean a lot to me, and they helped me get to this point too. So I shout out to Lingo, shout out to Montini, Miss Q Spot podcast, of course. Shout out to Smash, Bet the House. Um, yeah, you know, we all of this shit, man, is extremely shocking to get to 3 years. It's not even like, oh, Mother effing podcast. Shout out to you. Shout out to Jock Johnson podcast. To get to 3 years, man, of anything, you had to work your ass off to get there. I'm gonna leave you guys with this, man. I guess no matter what happens next, just know that I really fucking appreciate y'all. If you listening, if you just flying by, you pick up the shit, you fuck with me, family, friends, foe. I appreciate it because nothing is promised tomorrow. We clearly know that. But more importantly, nothing is promised next year, the year after next, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 25 years. Name it. It's not promised. I don't make plans because of that reason. So I could ask me right now, what's your 1 year plan for your podcast? Motherfucker, I don't know. I have no clue. But to see 3 years of anything, it's a blessing, man. And to see your name for 3 years in something is a fucking incredible honor. And it's humbling as fuck. It doesn't make me cocky, it makes me humble. Because like my brother Francisco said, a lot of these podcasts is burn out after 8 episodes and they don't want to do this shit no more because it's too much work and you gotta put too much money into it. You gotta sync this, you gotta, and after a while you get fucking bored and you're just like, fuck this shit. And I've been bored a bunch of fucking times, but every time I say I'm done with this shit, I come back to this shit. You know why? Because like I said, I love this. This has been what I wanted to do since I was in high school. Since I heard the Brilliant Idiots podcast and I listened to that shit. And I was like, yo, I gotta be like Charlamagne and Andrew Schultz. I gotta do what I want to do. I don't want to be radio. I want to do podcasts. And 3 years ago, that dream became a reality, and that reality is still standing. So again, if you're listening, you watching on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, I fucking love y'all. I appreciate the fuck out of y'all. Thank you. Because without y'all, this shit wouldn't have seen 3 years. I'll see y'all Monday when I go live on Instagram. But until then, I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys truly, truly, you know, love this. And more importantly, man, um, more and more that I sit here and think about life, I'm honored, I'm blessed, and I'm privileged to have had a seat at a lot of people's table in this podcast world. It's not that I don't want to give it back. It's just I'm too busy building my own table. So when it's finished, please believe me, I'm bringing everybody to the table. Love y'all. Thank you. BrandonJaneauShow is 3 years. Thank you. Love you. Bye.